it because yes, there's all of these men, but doesn't mean that I can't succeed. And one of the presenters had said, you know what, you guys are 1,000 people in the audience. One of you is going to make it. And I thought to myself, well, that's going to be me.
Oh my God. I mean, I think that takes so much courage to do. A, to do it full stop. B, to do it on Valentine's Day and to be like, you know what, I'm doing this for myself. Hi, and welcome back to High Noon Tea, where we're joined by women leading top businesses in finance, tech, food, and much more. Today, we're joined by Julie Hubert. She is the founder and CEO of Workland. Founded in 2011, she had a clear vision to reinvent the recruitment industry. Workland is a recruitment solutions architect that helps companies overcome their hiring challenges. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Lola. Thank you for having me.
So essentially, you are like the matchmaker of recruitment, like the Cupid, if you will.
That's exactly that. You got it. I didn't even need to explain it.
It's like a dating site. So can you give us just a quick rundown of what you do at Workland?
Yeah. So at Workland, we build technologies to automate the match between candidates and employers. So basically, we do everything that really brings that efficiency component through technology. But we also saw through the years that technology is not alone because there's a whole component that's human that's related to that matchmaking. So we also do HR marketing services and help companies make their employer brands shine. And we also help them recruit when they don't have time to do it themselves.
Amazing. So I want to, before we get into Workland, like seriously, I want to take a step back to the very beginning because you have a really interesting story, which is why I wanted to speak to you. I want to talk about 2012 Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that it's spooky season, but let's talk about one of the most love-filled days where essentially you gave yourself your own gift. What did you do and why is it so significant to where you are today?
Yeah, so on Valentine's Day, as anybody can read in the article I wrote, I gave myself the biggest gift, which was to choose the direction I wanted to take with my life. I had launched the idea of Workland several months ago before that time. And I was, struggling between having my day job and doing the side project. I was just working, all day, every day and barely sleeping. And I was really, really feeling like I got to that point where it's either you stay unhappy in your job and you just, say goodbye to your project, or you just take a plunge, you take the leap and you pursue your dreams. So, and I was really getting to that limit of what I could do, battling with the two lives at the same time. And so, I went up to my husband and I just knew it. And I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's Valentine's Day, and I care enough about myself to give myself the gift of being able to choose what I want to do with my life. And so I woke up and I gave my resignation, and I never looked back.
Oh my God. I mean, I think that takes so much courage to do. A, to do it full stop. B, to do it on Valentine's Day and to be like, you know what, I'm doing this for myself. Was there any part of you in that thought, what on earth am I doing? Am I going the wrong way? Am I going to absolutely blunder this? Or were you just so sure that this was the right move?
That's actually a really good question. So first of all, I think the fact that I packaged it into an experience, so a gift to me from me on Valentine's Day, just kind of gave me that security that I was doing something right. So first of all, it's a good tip for anybody. Pick a day that means something for you. But it was absolutely the scariest thing I've done in my entire life. And not only scary, it wasn't scary on the day, but it's just waking up the day after. And probably for the next 6 months, no joke, I woke up at night with like cold sweat. And I would wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? But never did I think, oh my God, I should not have done it. I was just really, really scared and freaked out. And I remember going to the coffee shop and like everybody's like 70 and over. And I'm like, what did I do? I'm here. I'm not 70. And so it was very scary, but I would do it all over again tomorrow, based on where I am today and just the journey that I got to live.
And you say that, so you already sort of put the idea of Workland in a few months prior to quitting. Would you say that that helped you quit? Like the idea that you had something that you were going to fall back on. What are like the things that in your mind you would need to have now? If someone wanted to quit, let's say tomorrow, would they need that kind of backup? Or what advice would you give to someone in that position?
So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was very little. So through the years, I, did business plans and I had, that's a good idea. And it never stuck long term. Like after a couple of weeks, I'd just give up on the idea. And funnily enough, I had the idea of Workland because I was trying to find a job and I was trying to escape a company that was amazing, but was not a good fit for me. And it's as I was going through the process, I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. It's like so inefficient that for me, and I have such like a baggage to offer. I can only imagine anybody who has some sort of hurdle. So the idea came to me and really with a passion, at levels I had never seen with other projects. So for sure, just that, having a project, being passionate about the idea, wanting to pursue it, helped me take that plunge. And I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know, and you kind of get freaked out when you quit your job. You're like, oh my God, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? But, I could have gone back to find another job. So what I recommend to people, for sure have a project that you're passionate about and that you're willing to take the plunge before, ideally. But also the probably even a better recommendation is not to wait too long when you're in a job and an environment that kind of eats up at you every day, because that's not worth it. And if you need, you get to that point, you got to make that decision. But if you already have a project you've kind of, started in parallel, obviously it's ideal.
Okay. And so you did all of that, you quit, like you say, then after that, it was sort of the aftermath of like, oh my God, I've done this. What is it then that managed to get you to where you are today? So the idea was born for Workland. How was that idea born, first of all?
The idea of creating Workland, it really, as I was saying, it's really through the job search, because I was such a career focused. For me, the career was so important. I wanted to go fast and I wanted to jump hurdles and get a job. I didn't want it to take me 20 years. And so it's that whole reflection on my own career path and my passion towards building a great career that founded the idea. But in the beginning, I had no idea how I was going to do it, because essentially I come from marketing background. So lots of experience in communication and marketing. I didn't know anything about technology and nothing about HR. So, when I would tell people, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to solve this big problem and match the whole world with the greatest company, very fast and efficiently, people were like, how are you going to do it? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And so the first years was really, I was just so passionate to resolve the issue. I didn't care that I didn't know. I didn't care that people thought I was crazy. I was just going to find it. And, as I was advancing, I was creating the path, because obviously nobody could tell me, here's, what you should do. Yeah. And that's one of the things in the beginning, I would read all the books on entrepreneurship and, building a business. And I'd close the book and I'm like, I still don't know what I'm supposed to do, So I wish there would have been a book, but because I was innovating, because I was creating something new, because I was in a field that I didn't know, of course, nobody could tell me the path. But I created the path by just putting a foot in front of the other, even though it was scary, even though I didn't know everything. And, the solutions came to me, and obviously also the right people who supported me in my crazy mission.
I mean, I think it's incredible going from marketing, like you're saying, into tech. It's two different ball games. And I think that incredible, you should be so proud, but also talking of that shift, because it's such a big shift from one sector to another. As a woman, going into the tech industry, do you find that there is sort of a different impetus in how people receive you as a woman? Or do you think that it is catered for women? Are there women in tech? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and I have a long history, because when I launched initially, it was 2011, 12. there was no like entrepreneurship company, companies or associations. It was like really the beginning. And usually being an entrepreneur meant that you had no job and you were kind of a consultant. So nothing cool about it, but you could feel the movement from the US, coming to Canada. So I remember attending the first edition of the Startup Fest, which is a big event in Montreal. And there was probably 2,000 people there and like 5 women. I could count them. And 2 of them worked there, so it didn't really count. Yeah. And I remember looking around and just not being intimidated, but just saying, oh my God, I have an opportunity to be different because yes, there's all of these men, but doesn't mean that I can't succeed. And one of the presenters had said, you know what, you guys are 1,000 people in the audience, one of you is going to make it. And I thought to myself, well, that's going to be me, and that's, that drive to figure it out, to battle all the challenges. It just came from that environment where I didn't see it that I was different, but I saw it that I was special. And I think the community has really matured. There's lots of programs, so lots of support for women in entrepreneurship, but also women in tech. So it's really much better than it was. But it didn't stop me from taking the plunge, even though the ecosystem wasn't structured as it is today.
I want to go to a point that you just said, and you mentioned it a lot, the passion that you had, the drive. It can't be easy when you're starting your own business, your own company, to continue to sustain that drive, to continue pushing forward. What is it that really helped you through that? Because, I don't know, I'm sure it's not simple. I'm sure there was many factors, but if you could pinpoint a few things that really were like the driving factors for you wanting to succeed, that you would maybe say, this is what you need in order to succeed, what would you suggest?
I think there's like 2 parts to it. The first one is I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to build a business probably when I was like 10 years old. Nobody understood. My parents were entrepreneurs, but, self-employed. So I saw them suffer, but I saw the freedom that they had to be with their kids, to do as they wish with their agenda. So I already had that drive to want to accomplish that. So that helped from the get-go. I felt mission driven, and it wasn't about the money. It wasn't to make $1 million. It was about accomplishing what I thought I was born to do, was to build a business and change the world. So that helps through tough times and keeping that passion. But the second component is I found a project that really touched me personally, because helping people connect to jobs, help people have better quality of life, have happier environments if they're not happy in their jobs. So for me, I was so passionate about helping people just like me that the idea never left, the passion never left through good and tough times, and also helped me inspire people to come help me in my crazy project, So it's really to have those. So it's to really see within yourself, being your own boss and being an entrepreneur is hard, but some people are just made for that.
Yeah. And
so it's about identifying if it fits with your personality and then really connecting passions with your project, then you have everything to hang in there.
So I want to shift gears to Workland specifically and talk about what you do there. Can you sort of, we spoke about the fact that you're like the Cupid of recruitment. How does the matchmaking process work? Going from a recruiter who wants to hire to an employee who wants to be hired. What are the steps that you go through?
Yeah. So initially, the first version of Workland technology was really, we developed a matching system. So candidates would come in, they would, answer a bunch of questions, kind of like a dating site, and employers would do the same thing. And then you had a match between people and companies that were compatible. We saw through time that it wasn't enough, because having a matching system is great, but then where do you find the candidates? And then once you have the candidate, companies need all sorts of tools to be able to carry over the recruitment process. So over the last 12 years, we've really, really developed. So our technology basically starts at the advertising side. So we reach people that companies are looking for on the digital channels. Candidates come in, we make it super easy for them to apply, and then we give everything to companies so that they can support the recruitment process and automate it. So we're really like a full-fledged recruitment software that automates, and then at the heart of it is the match. So that's what's great, because my original vision was smaller. And what I look at what we've done today, it's incredibly larger and definitely able to have a bigger impact on the whole, what I call the recruitment equation, because it's a bunch of information that ends up making that perfect match.
And what are some of the companies that you've worked with where you've seen these successes, if you're allowed to mention them?
We worked with all sorts of companies, small companies that are startups, to companies like Pfizer, who we developed special programs for diversity and inclusion and helping them recruit. TC Transcontinental is another company, and we help a bunch of school boards all over Quebec and in Ontario to recruit. So really, we're that technology who can help any type of company, whether they have no recruiters or they can have, 100 recruiters, because we've adapted by focusing on the end result, which is that perfect match.
And then just one last thing I want to ask you. You being sat here now, if you could speak to yourself in 2012, the day that you were going to quit or even the night before, what would you say to yourself, knowing where you are now?
I would just tell myself, just relax, party, have a nice evening. You're free and, enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that the next 6 months are going to be a little bit more quiet. You don't need to work 14, 16 hours a day. Enjoy the transition. And I actually, just because of what I lived through and what I did, when I talk to people who are living those stressful transitions, I would say, go ski, go do things, read a book that you wouldn't have give yourself the opportunity to read, that you actually want to read, relax, because it's like a mini life break. And that's why when you're in a transition, you got to enjoy that time just to refocus on yourself, to be able to go forward. So I would just say, don't stress. Everything's going to be okay. You made the right decision, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise.
Amazing. I mean, I feel like I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. It's done. No, that was great. Honestly, really great advice and super insightful. Thank you so much for joining me today and for giving us your story. I loved it. I loved listening to you. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.